Hello friends, welcome back. It's been a while since I've made a video. My sincere apologies about that, but yeah, I've been extremely busy. Literally trying to find a way to be in multiple states at the same time. Hell, even multiple countries. Been working with a lot of Germans, keeping them on their toes this past week. Yeah, so this is my review, analysis, commentary on the newest Lower Decks episode, episode 9. I think it's called Crisis Point. Okay, so a couple things. In the very beginning, kind of the cold open, they were talking about the Prime Directive, which is a very important concept in Star Trek, which... there's some disagreement on whether it's even a good policy or not. But there was something that Mariner said. Well, the captain mentioned, hey, how am I supposed to explain a war, that this planet's at war now, when it wasn't last week? And Mariner said something like, well, we're spreading freedom! You know, I almost think that's a little bit of commentary on the United States foreign policy. Let's justify anything by saying spreading freedom. Of course, Enterprise was name dropped again. That's always that always happens. So that's one of the consistencies of this show. Okay, so a lot of this episode dealt with Mariner needing therapy because there's clearly something off about her. At least that's what the captain, her mom, thinks. You know, she's not wrong. Just how you've seen that she's been acting this whole season. You know, it's like there's just something a little bit off about you. Maybe you should talk to somebody. And well, she tries the regular therapeutic approach, talking to a psychiatrist, and well, she doesn't take it seriously enough for it to be effective. So Boimler has this holodeck program where he's trying to practice talking to the senior officers about, you know, his future and his future on the ship, where he sees himself in 5 years, etc. So he made this program where he included all of their personal logs and everything so that the computer could make accurate duplicates of everyone on the crew. And that felt very Barclay-esque to me. So anyone familiar with Barclay, he was in The Next Generation and Voyager as the guy who suffered a lot of holodeck addiction. He would often make holographic counterparts of the crew and deal with them in the way that he had always wanted to deal with them, where he felt more comfortable. In The Next Generation, it was simply that he found Riker and Geordi extremely intimidating, so he just couldn't deal with them exactly, and he was extremely attracted to Troy and kind of made probably a more definitely inappropriate version of her on the holodeck. And then in Voyager, it was Voyager became a fantasy and obsession of him, where he felt like he could kind of live. Anyway, so that gave me a little bit of vibes there, where this may be more widespread than, say, like Barclay, where people use the holodeck to interact with their crewmates in ways that they don't have the confidence in real life to interact with them. Okay, so Mariner ends up being involved with Boimler's program and rewrites it. It actually makes it like this awesome action movie where we're on this, we can interact and live out a fantasy like in a movie style, where, hey, Boimler, you can get out of this what you want to get out of this, but hey, I got some issues I'm going to work out with your program. And so that ended up working out pretty well. She ends up playing kind of like a space pirate and tries to take over the ship. And she seems intent on assassinating the captain, her mom. And ends up, her holographic counterpart ends up saving the captain. And well, in the end, she ends up really working things out, and this form of therapy really worked for her. So what I found interesting was so they did this whole movie thing, and it ended up doing a lot of beauty shots of the ship, which is actually something that I've really missed in the new Star Trek shows. I'm not really a fan of the design of Discovery, of the USS Discovery. I've never been a fan of that design. That design's been around since the 70s, and I always thought, well, there's a reason that design was scrapped and never used, because it's ugly. And then it comes out as, well, this is the design we're going to use for the Discovery. And so I've never been a fan of that design, but I've also kind of missed like the epic beauty shots of a ship, like that make it feel like that this is an actual character on the show. Because you got this beauty right here, that is a central character on the show. And I just don't feel that in Discovery. And I don't feel that in Picard. Granted, it's not a Starfleet ship in Picard. It's the Mermaid, La Sirena. So in Picard, it's not a Starfleet ship, but it's still an important character in the show. And that is something these new Star Trek shows have failed on. And it seems like Lower Decks, the people behind Lower Decks, they know enough about Star Trek to be like, hey, this is a trope, but we're going for it. And it was just like, oh yeah. So it felt like, yes, this is good. This is good. So Boimler is actually talking to the captain, and ends up referring to the ship as a handsome lady. It's like, okay, I need to refer to the ship as a handsome lady. And it's just like, okay, yeah, that's so Star Trek. And I can see like Mr. Scott saying something like that. So the ship ends up crashing the saucer section on a planet during this whole movie thing, in a similar vein as the Enterprise D crashed in Star Trek Generations. So I thought that was a good homage. So and this movie thing ends with a couple Star Trek movie references. Star Trek 3, the defeated Mariner ends up landing on a planet that is very reminiscent of the Genesis planet from the end of Star Trek 3, and then the signature credit roll that we saw at the end of Star Trek 6. So that was really cool. Okay, so I think this episode it might be the best one of the series so far. There's one episode left. I really enjoyed last week's episode, and that's the one that they thought they were on trial but really weren't, and then there was a Q. That's where the Q cameo came in, so that was great. So yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. I saw a tweet this morning from Jessie Gender. I think she's Jessie Earl on Twitter, claiming that, well, her opinion is that Lower Decks has the best first season, at least so far. I mean, there's one episode left I could throw it into, because completely drag it down. But this is the Lower Decks. That's the best first season since the original series. I don't exactly agree with that assessment. I'm still leaning towards Picard as having the best first season of Star Trek since the very first Star Trek. But definitely think it's up there though. I would have to give it a knock or whatever, just because it still doesn't necessarily feel like a Star Trek show to me. It feels just more like a Star Trek. Feels like a Star Trek animated show, like where it's not meant to be taken seriously, and it's not. So, and that's where I view it a little bit differently. So I don't feel like directly comparing it. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. And if we want to do, that's a good idea for a video. So it's kind of good, like kind of rambling on a little bit, because just come up with videos. So I'll do, like, once this is over, do a let's rank the Star Trek first seasons, and I can already tell you what's at the bottom. And it's gonna be most people's favorite series. So, I mean, I think that's pretty obvious. So it'll be, so ranking Star Trek first seasons will be from TNG to best. So just so everyone has something to look forward to. All right, so that's it for my commentary, and we'll see you later.